What's going on, football fans? We're back again with our second game preview of today. Today is Wednesday. So, looking at the next game here, we got Washington versus Minnesota. This game's going to be played in Washington. This is a tough game. This is going to be an interesting matchup this weekend, Washington went out on the road in Seattle and got a victory against, I'm not going to say a great Seattle team, but they went on the road to beat Seattle in Seattle. That's already tough enough, considering how crazy that stadium is. That was a huge win for them. And this is another huge game for them this weekend. And Minnesota's coming off of their bye, so they've had 2 weeks to prepare. A whole extra week to prepare for this game. And on top of it, I believe that reports are saying that they're going to activate Teddy Bridgewater this week. Now, I don't expect Teddy Bridgewater to start. But Teddy Bridgewater, two years ago before his injury, was looking like one of the better quarterbacks in this league. If I'm the Vikings, they have 3 solid quarterbacks. They just put I think they're putting Sam Bradford on IR. I think he just had knee surgery. But they have 3 solid quarterbacks. Case Keenum's played really well. Unfortunately, they lost Dalvin Cook earlier in the year, and he was playing really well. But Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon have come in and played excellent. Their offensive line is fully improved for Minnesota, and their defense is one of the best defenses in the league. All they needed was some solid quarterback play, and that's what they've gotten from Case Keenum since Sam Bradford went down. Now you throw in Teddy Bridgewater, and Teddy Bridgewater gets back. That offense gets so much more dynamic, assuming he's the player that he once was. Even 80% of the player he was, I take Teddy Bridgewater over Case Keenum. Now, on the flip side for Washington here, they got their victory last week. They won on a game-winning drive engineered by Kirk Cousins. And that's something that we don't hear very much often, is an engineered game-winning drive from Kirk Cousins. But, he took his team. He made 2 beautiful throws in clutch situations, got his team into the position to win. And that's all that matters, from your franchise quarterback. I know the whispers have slowed down a little bit for him going to San Francisco this offseason with their trade of Garoppolo. So we'll see what happens. He looks like he might be in Washington for the long haul. So previewing this game here, like I said, Minnesota has had an extra week to get prepared for Washington. They know what they're going to throw at them. Mike Zimmer used to coach in the NFC East. I know that doesn't make much of a difference, now. But, he knows how it is to play in Washington, and I think, he's a great defensive coach, and he'll have his team scheme-wise ready to go. Now, looking at the matchups here, or key things to look at here, we're going to go ahead and start with Washington's O-line versus the front 4. Just the front 4 of Minnesota. Now, normally I highlight a front 7, but this is just the front 4. Washington over the last 2 weeks has had, I think, four of their starting 5 offensive linemen injured, hurt, not playing. That's huge, especially one of those guys being left tackle Trent Williams, one of the best left tackles in the game. They're beat up on their offensive line, and it showed last week against Seattle. It showed against Dallas 2 weeks ago. But I fully expect, this week it's going to be another tough challenge. Everson Griffin, all those guys that Minnesota has. Everson Griffin has gotten a sack, I think, in every game this year that he's played. All those guys bring up tough matchups, especially if they're playing against backup level guys. I expect Minnesota to continuously get pressure with just their front 4, leaving Kendricks, Anthony Barr, leaving those guys to be able to basically lurk around the middle of the field, blitz if needed with Barr, things like that. And I expect them to be able to constantly get pressure on Kirk Cousins in this game, leading to erratic throws from him. Number 2 key matchup here is going to be the Minnesota passing game versus the Washington pass defense. Now, Washington got Josh Norman back last week, or I think 2 weeks ago he came back. And, this Washington pass defense, I would say, is a little underappreciated, but, they're doing the best that they can with the personnel that they have. I feel like they're a couple pieces away, with their secondary. But this is a tough matchup. Stephon Diggs, he's been banged up probably the last month. If he's back to full strength, he's a huge thing, and I expect Josh Norman to follow him around. Adam Thielen has been one of the better not very much, not talked about as much receiver in this game. Recently, Kyle Rudolph is still a solid tight end. Um, and then McKinnon and even Latavius Murray, those guys you have to watch out for in the passing game. Minnesota can throw guys out there and they'll spread the ball around. And their new their philosophy for this year has been to control the clock, eat up some yardage on the ground, and use the play action with Case Keenum, and it's worked. They're 6-2, sitting in the first place, and win with tough defense. And our third and final key matchup for this game is Washington running the ball in general. Now, Washington, to run the ball, they rely mostly on Chris Thompson, in the passing game, like short passes that are, I guess you can say, extended handoffs, like swing passes, screen passes, things like that. For Washington to win this game, they're going to have to run the ball effectively. Now, that's tough against this defense. That front seven is great. Probably one of the best front sevens in the league. And Washington doesn't have the running backs. Robert Kelly is a banger. He's a bruising back, but he doesn't get downhill. Chris Thompson is shifty. He's like one of those change of pace backs, but he's not going to be the guy that touches the ball 25 times a game. Washington doesn't have one of those guys. But they need to be able to use those guys to get Kirk Cousins, time to throw and play action. And I've said in many of my other videos that I'm a big fan of play action for a lot of quarterbacks because you get a defense to bite, and a lot of big plays happens in play action. Look at Carson Wentz, Dak Prescott. Guys that have good running games have good play action games. You get those mobile quarterbacks out there and you get a run pass option, the RPOs, it opens up so much because it's almost unguardable. So that's something that we're going to have to look at here. So we're going to jump into our three reasons why each team will win this game. Let's go and start with the Redskins. Washington will win this game because Kirk Cousins doesn't turn the ball over. He plays very efficient and very effective. Meaning, I'm talking about 250 pass yards. I know that's a lot to ask for against this defense. It doesn't really even allow over 200 pass yards a game, I believe. But this is a tough matchup for him. He needs to be able to be efficient and effective. No turnovers, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. If Jordan Reed plays, finding Jordan Reed. Or Vernon Davis, Josh Doctson, finding Terrell Pryor, Jamison Crowder, Chris Thompson. You got to be able to spread the ball around to all these guys to find the matchup that you want, that you think that you can win. Number 2 for Washington is going to be getting off the field on third down. If they can stop Vikings drives, flip field position in their favor, you have to get off the field on third down in the NFL. It's imperative that you get off the field on third down to force the other team to punt. This is a game where Washington, if they want to win, they're going to have to score 24 points. Now, 24 points against Minnesota is a lot. It's a tough amount of points to score, but if they want to win, that's what they have to do. And number 3, Washington has a running game. If Washington can even run for 95 yards, 90 team yards, use the play action effectively, they can win this game. Xavier Rhodes is a lockdown corner in his own right, so maybe attacking the other guys in the secondary with the play action, with crossers, post routes, comebacks. That's something that Washington's going to have to use in their play action game, and they're going to have to open up the play action game with the running game. So that's something to look at for here. So 3 reasons why for Minnesota. It all starts on the defensive side of the ball, and that means getting sacks, pressures, turnovers on Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, in my eyes, does turn the ball over in a lot of key moments. He didn't do it last week against Seattle, but he did it 2 weeks ago against Dallas. In key moments, he does tend to turn the ball over, so that's something that Minnesota is going to be wary of. They have a lot of playmakers on that side of the ball: Harrison Smith, Andrew Sendejo, Xavier Rhodes, those guys, Kendricks, those guys lurk, so that's something to look out for. Number 2, it's going to be, getting Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen the ball in space. Stephon Diggs is probably going to be followed around by Josh Norman, my guess. So that means that's going to leave Adam Thielen in a lot of, one-on-one situations where I think he can beat the opposite corner for Washington, be it Bashad Breeland or I think it's Quentin Porter or I forget what his name. But, one-on-one for Adam Thielen, I think he's a very tough cover in this league right now. He's turning out to be a very solid receiver in this league and very much not talked about as much. So that's something that I expect Minnesota to take advantage of. And number 3 for Minnesota is going to be their running game. Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon. Those two guys have to get over 110 rushing yards together. That opens up the play action. Once again, talking about play action. Play action opens up the play action for Case Keenum, who is very solid at rolling out and finding receivers on the go. So that's something that we're going to have to look out for here in this game. My prediction for this game is very tough. It's going to be in Washington. Weather could be bad. The field conditions on that field are ugly. So in this game, I'm going to take Minnesota because of their defense. I don't expect either team to cross 20 points. If Minnesota wins this game, it's going to be 17-14, 17-10, maybe 20-14, something around those areas. That's what I think. 20-14 Minnesota, I'll take them. I think Kirk Cousins has 3 turnovers, 2 picks, and a fumble. I think Case Keenum is efficient and effective, doesn't turn the ball over. And Minnesota has a running game opening up the play action for Diggs and Thielen. Thank you for watching. I'm going to have one more game preview tomorrow. One more. And then that's going to do it for the week in the NFL. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. I'm out. Peace.